I'd like to welcome everyone to the Community Television Board of Directors Special Meeting, March 21st, 2013. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. James Fisher is not here. Tess Fitzgerald. Here. Denise Gallant is not here. Keith Gudger.
Here.
Joe Hall.
Here.
Karen Machado is not here. Jennifer Pittman is not here. Matilda Rand.
Here.
Dory Steinman.
Here.
Lou Tuasto is not here. Adam Wade.
Here.
Okay, I would like to ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to comment during oral communications.
Hello, Ron Holman, longtime producer, public member, and staff person here at Community Television. Right now I want to address you as a staff person, and I'm here to put a face on all the numbers that are in the budgets that you're looking at tonight, because it does really have a big impact. Some people are losing their jobs entirely. Some are getting cut 20–25%. And just stop and think about that. You know, a mile in our shoes, so to speak. 25% cut in take-home pay income is substantial. But I'm not here to talk about that, because I really want to make it clear the board, I think, has gone above and beyond, and staff is very grateful for the support. But what I want to bring up is that there's a much larger tragedy than what's happening with staff, and that's the downsizing of the entire organization and the danger of community television losing its relevance, and that's the bigger story. That's what I really want to emphasize. The board already knows this. I'm hoping maybe we're going to reach a few more viewers, because it's DIVCA. And for those who don't know about DIVCA, the Digital Information something Infrastructure Video Competition Act has onerous restrictions on funding, where you can use the funding for capital but not operating. I don't know about you guys, but every single person I've ever talked to about this looks at you like you're crazy when you tell them that's the way the state law is written. Not a single person ever says, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. And that's the problem. That's the issue that we have to solve. And it's not easy, but if we don't figure out a way to do that, I'm very concerned about the future of community media here in Santa Cruz County. And I think this has been a wonderful organization. It's done a lot of good for the community. It's very valuable, and we are trying our best. We're all working together to try and move it forward, but we face a really daunting challenge. So I just wanted to reemphasize who the real problem is with what we're facing. So, and thanks again for all the support you've given. Staff is grateful for all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, if there's nothing else in oral communications, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. However, there was a finding by the Finance Committee that there was an emergency has arisen that was not covered in the budget for this year. And the Finance Committee voted to ask that we add to our consent agenda an item recognizing a change in the current year budget for the executive director. And so...
Can I speak to that?
Yes, please.
The executive director had made a change to the 2012-2013 budget, and in between sub-objects, not in the total amount of the budget. And it's been the past practice of the Finance Committee to approve any changing to our budget to the regular board for approval. Like in some organizations, you don't have to do that in between sub-objects. In our organization, the history has been that the board of directors approves any switching around of budgets that have been previously approved. So to be on the safe side, the Finance Committee thought it would be good to add the approval of this change to the 2012-2013 budget to the Finance Committee's agenda, and that we then approve the changes and recommend to the Board of Directors that the Board of Directors add to the consent agenda the to make the findings that this came late after the agenda was posted, and then to go ahead and add to the consent agenda an item approving the recommended changes to the 2013 or the 2012-2013 budget. So it's kind of a lot of clunky steps, but we just wanted to make sure that we followed what our past practice has been. And so with that, I would make a motion that the board make the finding that an emergency arose subsequent to the posting of the printed agenda as follows, which was to add to our consent agenda a recommendation that the Board of Directors, the Finance Committee recommends the Board of Directors approve adjustments to the 2012-2013 budget as recommended by the Executive Director.
Second, and basically, as Tess was saying, we're moving some items from one item to a capital item, and I won't get into all the details unless the Executive Director feels, but I thought it's appropriate we do it the way we're talking about here.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. And as I understand it, the motion is to add item 5.2, the adjustment to the budget?
It's to make the findings that, yes, it's appropriate to add that item to
Okay.
our consent agenda.
All right. So is there any discussion from the audience? Okay. Any discussion, further discussion from the board on that? So what we're voting on is essentially to put that into our consent agenda. We're not voting on that item, we're voting to put it on the consent agenda. Okay. I would like to call for the vote then. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. So now we have a modified consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda?
I would also just like to point out that what was passed out to you was replacing the other budgets that were included in the packet due to the county's request for some things changed. So this is actually a new budget that you'd be approving. Rather than the one that's in the agenda, it's this one in front of you. Which maybe Joe can
Yeah.
Well, I thought I'd
clarify.
defer to Lynn if you want to add any thoughts as to what happened at the last minute.
After you received your draft budgets for the 2013-14, we did make one adjustment in the 2013-14. Remember, these are drafts. These are final drafts that go to the board on April 16th. These are not final budgets. But in that draft, in the 2013-2014, we reduced line item 7052 to $20,000 from $50,000. As a capital improvement, we would move that into the 14-15 budget. And on page, on the backside, I believe, of the one you have, line item 7630. We reduced that line item. We recently became a member of CAN and are using their insurance benefits, which reduced ours by $6,000. And then on that one, we also had a severance package that we've offered to our staff. We moved that down to line item 7632, which increased that by $1,700. So those are the only changes in the 13-14 fiscal year budget. More to the point on our 2014-2015, and again, I'm going to tell you these are draft budgets. These are constantly a moving target, and between now and April 16th, I suspect it'll change again. But we did change the operating budget from the county to $159,600, which was a reduction of about $50,000. And then we did take out the City of Santa Cruz government meetings and the County of Santa Cruz government meetings as part of that budget, since they're paying, that's their portion of their government meetings. So that changed that. That's line item 4100 on the fiscal year 2014-15. And it just changed, it also then changed our total operating salaries and reduced it to $74,600 with total benefits and taxes at $29,000. Again, this is in negotiations. We go before the board on April 16th with what we call a draft budget. That's what the county asked us to do. Until negotiations are completed with the County of Santa Cruz, none of this is final. But this is where we are at this moment, and this is what I wanted to make sure the board had at this moment.
Well, that answered some of the questions I had on the previous budget, especially what looked like an increase, even though we had fewer staff. So that was, thank you for that, because it answers my question that I have.
Yeah, actually, what we did, just so you know, what we did with that, there were two factors in that. Not only was, I mean, just so you know, part of it was reducing the cost itself, and the second was we had a severance package, and which should have been a separate line item.
Yeah.
Unless there are any questions, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified by the addition of item 5.1.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion from the audience? Any further discussion from the board? Then I would like to call the vote for the consent agenda items. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And Keith?
Yes.
I'm voting yes, and I'd like to just recognize all the work that's gone into the CMAP CTV contract. That's going to be a big change in the future, and even though it's on the consent agenda, it is kind of a map to the future. Nobody knows where it'll end up, but to do that map took a lot of time, of your time and some of the other board members who were involved, so I just want to thank all of you.
Thanks, Phil. Okay. The next agenda item is a discussion regarding fundraising for fiscal 2012-13.
I don't think you took a vote on the consent agenda, or did you conclude it?
Let me just say all in favor.
Didn't I say
He
all
did.
opposed?
I wrote down all eyes.
Oh, that's right.
Unless I was in a
We did
dream
all
world.
check it. And then Joe said, and then Joe said, I vote yes on that, and by the
Oh,
way,
okay,
this
that's
and
how
this.
that-
So nobody said
Yeah.
no,
No.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
He asked for no, and then he started talking, so, oh, by the way, I
Sorry.
vote yes. Well, it's good that some of us pay attention. No, just kidding.
That's right.
Just kidding.
I'm not taking the notes.
I wrote it down.
Yeah, I know you did.
Okay. Next item is the fundraising.
Yep.
Did we have, as a discussion?
Could you give some background on that? What are we doing?
You have a line item budget in this year's budget that says that the board, I believe, will provide $9,000 in fundraising. And to date, there's been some money sent in around specific issues, no fundraising money that I'm aware of. So I did speak to the chair earlier this month saying that I thought it was time to put this on the agenda. There's a very short period of time because actually this is for this fiscal year. Now should it happen into July, we can still book it into the previous fiscal year, but I would like to see us do something fundraiser. I want to be clear, our staff are so stretched that whatever we come up with as a board, I'm certainly glad to help, but our staff are really stretched. We'll help where we can, but we can't carry the load, and I just want to be clear about that.
So it sounds like the fundraising committee must meet and just come up with something to do between now and July, you're saying?
Yeah, that's fast.
What are we doing? Bowling?
That was the original plan.
Well, one thing we could do is, obviously, I know in other organizations, board members donate money. So if it would stimulate anyone in the community, on the board, people who are watching, I'll donate $500.
Thank you, Matilda.
So I hope anybody out there.
Well, what I'll do, Matilda,
Did
is...
you double me?
No, but I'll match you by increasing mine to $250.
All right.
Because I've already done half of what you did, so, but I didn't want to mention that publicly, because I think whatever we get from anybody is important.
Right.
But just so people know, and other people don't have the ability, those of us who may have some ability, I wish I had invested in more .com stocks and I would have more, but I think it's important that board members do step forward and where they can. So what I'll do is increase what I did. Maybe they'll create a new category for us, sailors or God knows what.
Well, you know, the other thing we've done recently is the scholarship fund for David God, and you know those are important things because that scholarship fund goes to people who would like to become members and take classes and do for the community videos. And so I've donated to that before. But this is just purely for the functioning of and doing our obligation, which we have promised to the county that we would have anywhere between 10 and 12. I see now it's 12,000. I thought it was 10 originally.
I think it was 9,000.
Yeah.
For this fiscal year.
So for this fiscal year. So anyway, $500 will help, and I hope others will follow
Well, and
suit.
if you match with mine, we've reached at this meeting 10%.
Yay.
And we won't bother people with more fundraising for the next 3 weeks on air. But if anybody out there has some, I think it would be, important if they do. The only thing that all the groups I'm in do is they send out fundraising letters, and there's really not that process here. I think you're aware of it at the other organization you're with, and I don't know if it's possible here, but that may be one other way we can do it, or else put something on the Facebook page and put that in. It's a short period of time, and everybody on the board has multiple obligations, but I'm glad you and I can join hands and help a little, and we'll see where it takes us.
And I won't even touch that hand that you heard. All right.
I still think we have to
I
have.
don't know if it counts. I am donating my entire salary for the 2 weeks I'm teaching here. I am using the
That
studio,
counts.
but not any of the equipment for the Parks and Rec, and I'm
That
donating
counts.
my salary for that, which comes to about $450.
Perfect.
If,
So we're
you
up
know,
to
if
$1,500.
if my class goes, I have to
When
get
is
8
your class?
students. Last 2 weeks of June, last 2 weeks of June.
So that'll count for this
Every
fiscal year.
morning.
That'll
Does
count for
that
this.
count? Oh, good,
Yes,
all right.
good. You're in. And then, of course, people may want to call 425-8848, Community Television of Santa Cruz, and I encourage you to do that, people who are out there. It helps. And all the people that work on programs and the staff definitely deserve it. And don't forget, we rebroadcast government meetings and lots of local informational programs that many of us work on ourselves. So
And one other
get
thing.
your checkbook,
We have-
425-8848.
Another thing I noticed with our new webpage, it's a lot easier to navigate, and I think it shows the benefit of this to the community without, taking this too long, is we have the memorial service on there for Officers Butler and Baker, and those are the kind of things that you won't have in a community without your local television, and I watched some of it again, and it does remind you of the importance of being in a community that cares.
May as well write the check right now.
I'm afraid I'm not as organized as you, Matilda. I have
Just putting the screws on right there.
to, anyhow, I won't say anymore. Good luck to the fundraising committee.
You brought up the memorial. I would like to thank Ron, because that memorial would not have been on our stations if Ron hadn't gone the trouble to get that disc and bring it here. So thank you, Ron.
Yes, thank you, Ron.
I would like to say that I'm going to have to call a fundraising committee, and I will work on, there's not currently a chair. If anyone currently present would like to volunteer themselves, you can't volunteer someone not here to be the chair of that committee, that would be great. If not, I
If
will.
it's the bowling, hasn't Karen always done that?
She did the first one, which was the dinner in here.
Yeah, because I never even was able to attend, so I didn't know.
I think staff took the majority of the work on the
Yeah.
bowling
Did they?
one. I
Yeah,
think
I-
Ally and staff took
I
the.
think you should just call a meeting and
Yes,
see what we can come up
I will
with.
call a meeting. Okay. Is there anything else we need to discuss regarding the fundraising other than I will call
No,
it a
I'll be
committee.
glad to work with whoever it is setting up the meeting.
Fortunately for you, we'll probably do it while you're in Mexico.
Well, then email me. I will be on email. I will be unavailable by phone.
Okay. All right, is there anything else? That's the end of our agenda before we go into closed session. Any other items before we go into closed session?
I'll move, we adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Great. We're adjourning this part of the meeting, right, but not the whole board meeting.
Oh, that's right, we'll just actually adjourn to the closed session.
I would like to thank the volunteers that helped to televise tonight's program: Greg McKenzie, John Maurer, David Goldman, David Perez, and Karen Scott. And if I forgot anyone, let me know. Thank you. Hey, with the plaque.
I'm sorry, I have to leave
You got
you.
you out on time, but you're not.